All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to be doing my first ever interview with none other than head writer and executive producer for Marvel Animation's Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Jeff Trammell. What's good, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I feel like this is a long time coming. You've been a long time representative of the show. You've been talking us up for a long time, so I appreciate it. So really glad we could do this.
Oh yeah, man. It's been great to finally see, from all the San Diego Comic-Con images to where we are now with the show being released. And it's just been an awesome experience to, have this opportunity with you right now. So I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day doing this with me.
Pleasure is mine, man. Very excited for this.
Yeah, man. So I want to get into some questions and whatnot. So I want to ask you sort of about yourself. When did Marvel decide to, ask you about pitching for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and things like that?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick version. I moved out here in 2015 to start working at Nickelodeon as part of the Nick Writing Program, which amazing program. I'll just go into it briefly for people that don't know. Every year, there's an opportunity to submit scripts if you're like a writer looking to break in, and they take applicants from all over the world. Usually end up with a couple thousand, and then they narrow that down to like, a couple hundred, then eventually like 30, then down to like maybe six. And then they pick from that group. And if you get one of those spots, you basically get to work at Nickelodeon for a year and get paid to learn, which is incredible.
That's
So I
dope.
entered that a few years ago. Um, I'm a self-taught writer, so I never went to like college or anything for it. Never took any classes. Just kind of always had an interest in it, and downloaded a bunch of books and scripts and taught myself how to write for TV. Went through this program, applied, got in somehow. uh, then basically like started working out here in 2015. Went through that program for a year, learned a lot. Worked on a show called Harvey Beaks and a show called Glitch Text while I was there.
I remember
Um,
those.
yeah, I'm sure you've heard of them. Finished up that program, then went to basically was kind of like looking for work. Eventually got hired on Craig of the Creek. I was on Craig for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, and as I was like working on season four of Craig, I met Brad Winderbaum, who's the head of streaming over at Marvel Studios. Brad let me know that Marvel was looking to get into animation and asked if I was interested in pitching on another show. I was like, of course. I pitched on that show. Went really well. I got to pitch to Mr. Feige, which was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Um, and basically, like they decided to go with someone else for that show. But then they were like, we're also doing the Spider-Man show, and we would love for you to be a part of that. So they basically were like, hey, do you want to do Spider-Man? I was like, of course I do. And that's kind of how this started.
That's awesome. By the way, could you kind of maybe, because I'm curious what that other show was that you were kind of going for.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you can probably figure it out from context clues based on the other shows that are out.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so that's awesome. So I want to jump into the production. Like, how far, during production, because when it was announced, it was kind of like supposed to be a Tom Holland prequel, and then it sort of, became a what if MCU sister timeline sort of thing. So, how much of the original show was kept, or was it changed?
um, hmm. Honestly, not a lot of the show changed from the point where you guys knew about it, where it was announced. It was essentially the show that it is now. Um, by the time you guys, when it was announced on the Disney Plus Twitter account, I believe, uh, it was the show. We were already boarding the show, so like nothing had changed. Nico was still in it. Lonnie was still in it. It was essentially the same show, even up to the title change. Like if I were to open the first script, it would still say Spider-Man freshman year, as opposed to your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but it is the same show. So when we talk about like, oh, it was originally like a bit of a prequel to the films, that was like very, very early on, like early conversations. Like, this is what it could be. And then very quickly it was like, oh, well, this is a bit limiting. We won't be able to use these characters. We won't be able to tell big, grandiose stories because we're kind of like limited to this very narrow scope in time. So very early on, it was decided to kind of like do our own thing, go left instead of right, and just kind of have fun with it.
Gotcha. That's one of the aspects I enjoy about the show is that you were able to do a lot of twists and turns while keeping that classic Spider-Man feel. There's a lot of like influences from, past Spider-Man media. It really does feel like a love letter to the, past Spider-Man things that have come before is something that I really appreciate. So I kind of want to ask you, like before Spider-Man, was there any other Marvel heroes that you considered maybe pitching a show for?
I mean, I think maybe now I would be interested, but I've always like Spider-Man's always been my guy. So it became a thing where like early on when I first met Brad, he's like, "Oh, if there are opportunities, are there any characters you would want to pitch for?" And I remember saying like, "Oh, well, I love Spider-Man, but I know you guys are doing the movies, and I know Sony's doing stuff with Miles, so I assume Spider-Man is kind of like off the table. But that's the character that I really love and resonate with, so that's the character that I would want to do something with. I think now that we've like expanded the Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man world, there's a lot of characters that I would love to dig into even more. But yeah, in terms of like initial pitches and shows, I couldn't be happier to be doing Spidey.
Awesome. Yeah, Spidey's the guy. I'm a big Spider-Man fan myself, have been ever since I was 4. Used to run around with the Spidey PJs on, the Spidey
Yeah.
Crocs, all of that. We're waiting to see the reruns on Fox Kids Saturday mornings for the animated series and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
great times. So I want to jump into the suits. So we have a ton of suits in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Some that we've seen were kind of like little throwaway jokes in a way. And then we have the three main suits. We have the homemade, we have the Osborn suit, and then we have the classic suit. So out of the three, which is your favorite?
Trying to make me pick between my children. They're all I love them each for different reasons, and I'll talk about the reasons first.
Okay.
I love our homemade suit because it's it's so different in a fun way. Like the tubes and everything about it, like it looks like something someone could actually build, which I think is cool. And
Yeah.
it also like it sets us apart from every other Spider-Man because you see that and you're like, oh, that's the one from that show because it's so specific to our show, which is cool. So I love it for that because it really helps us find our originality and stand out amongst everything else. Um, the Oscorp suit is fun because obviously it's based on another suit that I really love, but it was our chance to kind of like tweak that and do something fun and different with it. It also used to have other features that we weren't able to make work in the show. Like we took it out because just time constraints. But and I don't want to spoil it because we might do it later. But there's
Okay.
something really fun about that suit that I liked. And then
Okay.
obviously the classic red and blue. How do you not like?
Yeah.
To the same way everyone's like, give him the red and blue suit. I also am like, I want him to have the red and blue suit. But
Yes.
story, we gotta pace it out. We gotta make that moment big. So then when it happens and you react, like I assume everyone reacts when he stops or when he shows up in 9, you're like, oh yeah, this is the moment. It just feels right. So for those reasons, like I love each suit. But I'm gonna say our homemade suit. I think because we spent so much time with it and there just went so much work into figuring out what it could be. Um, when I say like literally, there was over 60 designs of what that suit could be. Like it took us months to figure out what the suit was going to look like and how to make it work and feel like something special for us.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
really happy with it.
Yeah, in the end credits, I love the end credits. I love that y'all were able to incorporate the concepts and different things like that. I did notice like there was like I guess it was like a early suit. It was kind of like a jacket over
Hmm.
and I was like, that's a really interesting design because I do remember that being one of the concept arts of I think it was Butane. He had that jacket on. So that's really interesting that you guys had like different concepts of what the suit was going to look like and kind of going into that. So that you kind of answered that question right there. The next question was going to be about the process in creating the homemade suit and kind of keeping that classic Spider-Man look and feel. So you guys like really did a great job with in capturing that while keeping Spider-Man to the character that we know.
Thank you. And I gotta give
So
a shout out to our like biz dev team. Like them and Leo Romero and just like every Joey Vasquez, Paulo, like everyone on that team just brought it. And there were so many ideas kind of thrown at the wall just to see what would stick. No pun intended. Um, so
yeah.
it's it was a really cool process to kind of sit back and watch as well.
Yeah, shout out to your team. So the next question in the show, after Peter gets his powers, we get sort of a time jump. So I want to ask you, was there a reason as to why you kind of time jumped and kind of did it in the prequel comic as opposed to doing it in the show?
Yes. So I thought as a Spider-Man fan, we've seen a lot of his story a lot of times to the point where, even in the films, we kind of like skip over it. And it's like, he's Spider-Man now, you get it, and everyone's kind of usually on board with that. For me, I said, if we go back to the beginning, if we see the spider bite, there needs to be a reason that we see it. Like, I don't want to just kind of like, here's this thing because you're supposed to do this thing that we see. But then after that, I was like, well, I don't know how fun it's going to be to watch Peter slowly figure out his powers on the screen. And he's already in this new world. We've already established so many things are different. I don't want to like now retread of like, okay, now we do the scene where he climbs the wall and you see it again because it just would have ate up a lot of our screen time. And I think that time could have been better utilized for a character like Lonnie or a character like Nico that we don't know fully well in our show. So I kind of wanted to skip over it for that reason, but then the opportunity came along to do the prequel comic with Christos and Eric Gapster and the incredible team over at Marvel Comics. And it was like, okay, well, this is like prime real estate for what we can do. And Christos brought some really cool ideas of like, okay, what if during this time, he faces the enforcers because we knew he'd have little battles between things. So things like that, and then getting to really see him figure it out. And Christos brought something really cool to it, which was that he was able to do the origin story in a fun, fresh way, which is so much of our show. It's like, it's this, but it's different. So, like, for him to be able to, like, tap Spidey's origin and make it feel unique to the show, but also, like, not something you've seen a million times, but also reminiscent of, oh, I know this moment, or this is exactly like this, or even just like having Eric just completely mirror things from our opening credits in the comics. It's really cool. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that was our kind of idea for like why we skipped over, but also we wanted our opening titles to kind of fill that gap of like you're watching them do the web fluid, you're watching them figure out the first climb, you're watching them do the big jump. You know,
Yeah, I love the opening title scene. It's great. And I want to ask you, whose idea was it to each episode have a different title card?
that was me.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
because that
I
was like I wanted to treat it like a comic book, and I'm like, every Wednesday I would go pick up comics when I was, living back in Detroit, going to the shop on a regular basis. So I remember thinking like, oh, it'd be really cool if like each episode opening title, there's a different splash page, different cover for the episode. And I remember pitching it like, well, maybe this will work. And then like I also like went through tons of covers and handpicked each one so we could then send it over to Leo so he could do his interpretation for the show. So yeah, every single one of those was kind of handpicked for the episode by me.
Yeah, I appreciate the comic book references within those title cards. Like the first episode is the iconic Amazing Fantasy 15. Then you have,
Hmm.
I think the second episode was a Brand New Day. I think that's the comic. Maybe you got that from. Um,
Uh, I don't think it's. I know Brand New Day is number 10,
okay.
but I know there's one where he's running by Oscorp. That's yeah. Each one is kind of pulled, but yeah, they're all over the place. We pulled Identity Crisis. We pulled the fight with the Scorpion. Yeah, they're all in there.
Yeah,
We even
yeah.
pulled a Daredevil one, which was fun.
Yeah, the Daredevil one was so cool. But we'll get into Daredevil a little later. So seeing the events play out, over time, is there a possibility that we'll see this Peter Parker grow up? Like maybe he's a senior, he graduates, he maybe goes to college.
I think it's a little early to tell, but I would totally be down for that. I think that's kind of more of a if that's the direction the studio wants to go, I'm more than happy to go that way. If it's, evergreen high school stuff, I'm more than happy to do that. But I do think that there's something cool with growing up over time with Peter, seeing him kind of evolve, maybe graduate, maybe go to college, who knows.
Yeah, I would love to see that. So that's something we'll have to see. I want to ask you this. What do you think is the best part about your Peter Parker slash Spider-Man?
Hmm. What's the best part? I think seeing him with a new cast of characters to me is like the best part. Like, I mean, I could talk about like our Peter and his like, never wanting to give up and his diehard attitude, or just like seeing him influenced by maybe the wrong people, but also just like having him around our Harry, who's so different from every other Harry, or having him around Nico, who can be that kind of like big sister vibes to him, but also Pearl, who has big sister vibes as well. And even
Yeah.
just Lonnie, who feels like just like a pal that he can like, somebody he can hang out with. I think there's something nice that our Peter kind of reflects present day,
Hmm.
where it's like, people are from different cliques and all are hanging out together. And it's not like, oh, you're a jock, so we can't be buddies or whatever, like I wanted to make sure that it felt very modern in that way.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I appreciate. The dynamics, especially with Lonnie and Peter, one of my favorite dynamics throughout the show. Also, Nico and Peter is great, Pearl and Peter is great, and just them interacting with each other outside of Peter is like a really breath of fresh air. Because, sometimes shows they do that kind of thing where you have the guy who likes the girl and the guy that's with the girl, they have like a back and forth. You didn't do that. You made them like meet each other, get to know each other. They're very similar. Then they realize and then
Mm-hmm.
they become buddies. And I really appreciate that aspect.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the next question, I'm sure you probably maybe have heard about this. Before Nico, Jessica Jones was considered. Were there any other characters that were considered to be one of Peter's friends, but maybe got changed?
Hmm. I'm trying to think back. Honestly, there's no one coming to mind right now. I think Jessica was the big one. We talked about Jessica kind of like filling that Nico role, but then decided against it. And Nico just felt like a really good fit. And also, with Nico's story, it allows us to go some places that I don't think Jessica's story would have technically opened the pathway for. But yeah, I'm trying to think back to see if there's anyone else that we talked about adding in. But no, I think that's the core group. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like Nico's whole vibe in the show and especially with the finale kind of seeing the direction that you're possibly going to take her in, that's going to be even more interesting just knowing the history behind Nico.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so knowing about Peter's friends and their histories, kind of speaking into the comic history, will we see like a Pearl or, become Wave or any of those characters like become their alter egos.
I mean, a lot happened in these first 10 episodes. We know for a fact that, there's a season two coming, there's a season three coming. So there's a lot of real estate to kind of like, you know, play around with different avenues. I will not I will not just outright say if anything will happen, but I think
Okay.
there's a good chance for certain characters to become their alter egos, and some characters may not. It kind of depends on where we take things going forward, but I do know that there is a want from a lot of fans for some of those things. So we'll see what happens and what's best for the story that we're crafting. But yeah, I think there's a good chance we'll see a few people reach their alter egos in
Okay.
the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that actually kind of sort of in a way answers the next question, but Agents of Atlas. I'm sure you've probably heard of
Yes.
Agents of
Yes.
Atlas. So, do you think maybe we could possibly see Agents of Atlas or in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, or maybe have you thought about maybe doing an Agents of Atlas spin-off series?
I mean, I like those characters a lot. There's a reason certain characters pop up in the show, like Pearl, like Luna, like Amadeus. Um, but in terms of like, you know, an Agents of Atlas series, I that's more of a Marvel Studios question than a Jeff Trammell question, but I'd be more than down for it. As for if they'll show up, I mean, again, we got a lot of room to tell a lot of story. I'm in the never say never camp, but also currently none of them have powers, so they could just hang out. I guess they could always go to a Luna concert, but I don't know if that'll be super satisfying for people.
That would be actually kind of cool seeing them at a Luna Snow concert. So yeah. So moving into more questions about the characters, who is your favorite supporting character in the show and why?
Hmm. The second you said that, my brain went Lonnie. But I don't know if Lonnie is a supporting character. Like honestly, he feels like a main with Peter, so I'm not gonna say Lonnie. Um, I'll say May. I think Aunt May is a tough character because you don't want to use her too much, but you don't want to forget that she's there. So I think finding a great moment to kind of like pepper her into the show is
Yeah.
always important. And I feel like we did a really good job with that in season one. I was really proud with like the first time you meet May and Peter, you get a big sense of their bond and how they are together. Um, as well as like later in the season when Peter takes his first big loss, May's there to kind of like prop him back up. So I feel like for a character that doesn't have a ton of screen time, she really makes big moments happen. So for me, I would say May is probably my favorite supporting character in the show.
Okay, yeah. Aunt May is definitely the heart of the show, especially when it comes to having that, with Uncle Ben not being here, it kind of fills that void of Uncle Ben, having those memories and kind of reminiscing on them. So I really like her aspect in the show. And even kind of going into the finale, which we'll get to later, but I do have like a question about that. So I do want to jump into this. There was an interview you did, and you said that you and your team weren't allowed to use the Fantastic Four and Big Will. Were there any other Marvel characters that Marvel said, nah, y'all can't use these?
Uh Honestly, I don't I can't think of any. I'm sure there was like, oh, this character's appearing in this, so maybe don't. But nothing that's jumping out at me. If anything, they were very like, oh, you should use Iron Man for this, or you should use this character, or like Brad was kind of like offering up, oh, it'd be cool to use this character. So like they were super supportive and it was like kind of using whoever we needed to continue to build out our world. Um, so yeah, no, not really.
All right. I have to ask this. Like this is like a burning question for people. Did you ever find out the reason as to why you weren't allowed to use Big Will?
No. I don't know. I'm sure someone will be like, oh yeah, yeah, you could have used them now, but like, yeah, we couldn't use them for some reason.
Gotcha, gotcha. So yeah, with New York, there's a lot of many different heroes. We have Daredevil, we have, Finesse, we have Iron Man, Captain America. We saw him like in Oscorp's office, as well as I'm guessing that's T'Chaka as well,
Yeah.
beside him. So we know that they're there. So were there any other grounded heroes, like maybe a Luke Cage or an Iron Fist that your team maybe thought about putting in?
Yes. There is a character that is in the show now, um, that is the secret identity of another vigilante character. I don't know if we'll end up going down that road, but that was a character that I wanted to play just in case we had the opportunity. Um, so that's all I'm going to say about that for now. I'll leave that vague and let you guys figure out who I'm talking about.
Okay, okay. Interesting, interesting. Um, what non-Spider-Man Marvel character do you think would have a cool interaction with your Spider-Man?
I mean, I feel like I have to say Captain America just because
Oh
our
yeah.
Spidey's such a fan of Cap. But outside of that, it would be fun to see him interact with. Um, that was a tough question. Oh, you know what? No, I shouldn't say that. I won't say that. You almost got something out of me. Um, non Spider-Man Marvel character that would be fun to see him interact with. Jeez, this is a tough question. I wasn't prepared for this one. Um, you know what? I'll say Hawkeye. Kate Bishop Hawkeye could be really fun.
Okay, that would be dope. I would love to see that interaction.
I don't know if the timelines match up because she appears so much later, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that would be cool. So in the finale, we got what felt like mini setups in a way, kind of like your multiple different post-credit scenes in a way. We got Peter and Harry starting up Web. Could you maybe describe what the Web organization is?
Web is kind of what Nico said in the finale, where it's a bunch of geniuses working together, very little adult supervision, just kind of like letting them do their own thing, for better or worse. um, but yeah, it's kind of a altruistic company of them trying to like just make the world a better place. So it's a lot of them looking at like, okay, what's this thing that I can use science for to hopefully like help, uh, make it so people aren't hungry, or something that's kind of like a self-sustaining garden, things of that nature, where it's a lot of people just coming together, very altruistic, and trying to like make the world a better place for everyone.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a feast in a way.
Yeah, like a
Gotcha.
science-based feast. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that, we saw the names on the blackboard, well, chalkboard, well, blackboard rather, right? It was
Whiteboard. Yeah,
whiteboard.
yeah.
Yeah, whiteboard. And some of those names are some very interesting characters in Marvel. So very curious about where that's gonna go. How does Peter feel about his father? Like we saw that we have that. We have a piece of the symbiote that's on the loose. We have Finesse and Daredevil. What the heck's going on there? We got Nico. She's discovering her powers. And the big obvious thing in the sky, the Watcher.
These are all great questions that I will happily answer come season two.
Okay. Okay. You heard it here. So yeah, the next question is, what's the aspect that you enjoy most about you and your team about the show?
What's the aspect that I enjoy most? Honestly, I would say the thing that I enjoy most about my team in the show is just getting to work with this team to make the show. Like it's really impressive and really inspiring to see how much work goes into something like this. And so many people are just like giving their all every time we have a pitch, every time, like we're giving them a script or even just coming up with a script and saying like, oh, what's a fun thing we can do that doesn't feel like it's been done, but will be so satisfying from like a story standpoint and a fan standpoint. And then to like then hand that to our board artists and watch them like just go wild with some of these sequences and like also like just the really like heartfelt tender moments and really like crank on that emotion. It's really impressive to see our design team just coming up with like incredible looks or like building out these worlds. It's just really cool to watch so many talented people create something so cool and put their whole hearts into it. And then for that final product to go out and people to see it and enjoy the show, it means so much. So honestly, like that's the coolest part, just getting to work with so many dope people to make something really special.
Yeah, I would imagine that experience is like very fun, being able to come up with different ideas and kind of just be like excited for where the direction could go and where it could lead to. So I bet it's fun being able to work on this show. So yeah. The next question is kind of, I know you talk about Spidey comics, so I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite Spidey comic stories? And did any of these inspire certain storylines within the show?
Hmm. I mean, let's say I, of course, got to mention OG, like Amazing Fantasy, everything that comes after it, all the early stuff is really great, as well as like I got into comics like really heavily, maybe 15 years ago. And the first time I picked up Spidey after a long run away was kind of like in the middle of the Gauntlet storyline, the Shad with the Lizard, or Shad with the Lizard, and then going into like the Dan Slott run. So I have a big affinity for the Dan Slott run as well. Um, Nick Spencer, Christos's Spider-Man, like there's so many great Spider-Man writers,
Yeah,
uh, and just so many great Spider-Man stories. I'm also like a huge fan of a lot of the what ifs, as well as like all the Spider Verse of it all, and like all the different Spider-Man. I also love Agent Venom. I love Kane Parker as Scarlet Spider, especially. I say that because I'm mentioning a lot of different stories. Not a lot of them really had a big influence on the show. I think there's something cool about like, little nods here and there, but I also think that there's something nice about like having this real estate, being able to do this show that exists in this timeline that's adjacent to the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline and affords us very like, we can pay homage or nod at certain moments, but also like I wouldn't feel right just kind of like, okay, now we're doing this comic arc, but in this world, I kind of want to make sure that everything feels unique and special to the show. That's not to say that we won't like obviously there's certain like oh this character becomes this character and like that's a
yeah,
thing from a comic. So of course we're going to do that, but I
yeah,
don't want it to feel like oh now we're doing like the sins of her past arc or whatever. Like I want it to very much be like this is a show that as a comic fan I would still want to watch because it's not doing the thing that I've already read. It feels like something fresh and new. So that my thought process and the thought process of the team is always what can we do that's new and fresh, but also unique to the show.
gotcha. Yeah. There is one story that I kind of want to see. I'm pretty sure you've seen, maybe have read it, The Crisis on Campus, the iconic
Mm-hmm.
cover with him swinging and there's a bunch of kids protesting. That's one of my favorite Spider-Man stories. So it would be pretty cool to see something like that. But I appreciate the take of you kind of doing different things and not kind of going full into the comics while still also showing appreciation to the
Hmm.
comics. Yeah. So, as we talked about before, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man feels like a love letter of all things Spider-Man, movies, cartoons, video games, comics. How are you able to balance like some of the references uh, from those past Spider-Man media while also keeping it fresh and new, but also with the classic take?
Um, the references are funny because, as I mentioned, huge team of Spider-Man fans. So sometimes they're very much like thought out and like, okay, cool, we should like do an homage to the balloon kid from Spider-Man 2, the video game, and like this girl loses her balloon. Or we do like the tritium joke into the like power of the sun in the palm of my hand bit.
Yeah,
Obviously, like we're gonna do that. But then
yeah.
there's other ones where like design will do like pizza time sign or like various little things that kind of happen in the background. So it's kind of like everyone gets a chance to kind of like, oh, I love this thing about Spider-Man. I'm going to try to throw it in. But, to that point, we also don't want it to be like Reference Fest 2025. So we want to make sure that we have references, use them in moderation, but also like we're building something on our own. We're hooking you with our own story. We don't want to, again, just kind of like rest on the laurels of the legacy before us. We want to add to that legacy. So hopefully, you know, 15, 20 years from now, if there's another Spider-Man series, they're kind of like, little wink and a nudge towards our show as well, or something like that in the games or something. So I just want to make sure that we are honoring that legacy, but also adding to it.
Most definitely. So, Marvel Animation, as we know, we have What If, we have X-Men 97, and we have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and some other upcoming things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, as someone who enjoys X-Men 97 as well as this show, is there a possibility of maybe doing a crossover with the two shows?
Um, I would love that. I don't know how feasible that is. I don't know like technicality wise what the odds are of that happening, but I would love it. I know there's people at X Men '97 that would love it. I'm sure there's people at the studio that would love it. But yeah. So that's to say, I would be totally down for it if the opportunity arose.
All right. So, as we know, video games are becoming more and more of a popular media in this day and time. And they have told many amazing stories. The Insomniac Spider-Man games, for example. So, if the opportunity arose, would you be interested in doing a Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man video game?
1,000,000%. Yeah, definitely. I would be personally like, intimidated because I do love those Spider-Man games so much. Insomniac has knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I would happily do a Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man game. Maybe
awesome.
it's an RPG. Maybe it's like you, Peter, Lonnie, Nico, Harry, kind of like four person. Maybe
Hmm.
Harry's like a bard or so. I don't know. Like, but that would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. So the final question, and this is a big one. This is a hypothetical question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But with two Avengers movies coming up, we got Doomsday and Secret Wars. If the opportunity arises, would you be interested in seeing your Spider-Man appear and interact with the greater Marvel universe?
Totally. I mean, yeah, I'm down. I'd be happy to see our Spider-Man in either of those. If he were to pop up in a Spider-Verse film, I'd be stoked. Like anytime we can get our Spidey out there and interacting with other characters, I'm all for. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're back. So my final question for you today is, I'm a physical collector. I love being able to collect comics and things like that. Uh, some would say art books, uh, you know, DVD releases, you know. So is there any consideration of doing a Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man art book as well as releasing the first season on DVD?
I haven't heard any conversations about any physical releases for the show. Um, and I don't know what I cannot say regarding other things, but I would say there's a lot of great art, and it would be a shame if it were to go to waste and not be seen by the adoring public. So take that for what you will.
Got you, got you. All right, that is the final question. I want to say thank you for coming in and doing this interview with me. It's just amazing that my first interview is from someone who works at Marvel, being a someone who's been a Marvel fan for most of his life and Spider-Man fan as well, you know. That's my character. I grew up with him as well as you did, and it's just amazing to finally sit down with someone who has that background experience working on a Spider-Man cartoon and just getting their feedback and their insight into the development in this show. So thank you to you and your team for creating a love letter and an amazing animated show, no pun intended. Uh, yeah, amazing animated show that I want to see go on for many seasons. I hope you guys can do 10 seasons of this show because there's so much storytelling within that I just feel like this show could have that longevity. So yeah, thank you so much again. Is there anywhere that the people, you know, who are listening to it or checking it out could maybe find you?
Yeah, I'm on some social media as Mr. Jeff Trammell, two F's, two M's, two L's. So yeah, you can find me there. But also, I just want to say, like, thank you. Like, I appreciate you having me on. This is really cool. It means a lot because you spoke so much about the show and just making sure that like people were aware of things, and I appreciate it. And I have very much like come from where you are, where like I'm a fan and like I grew up with Spider-Man, and like, I know how much it would mean to me if the roles were reversed. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you having me on and just like letting me talk to you and your fan base about the show. Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think you're awesome. So yeah, keep it up, man. You're killing it.
Oh man, thank you. You're awesome. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to come back again for season two. I would love to have you on if you want to come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. So thank you to all of you who stuck around to watch the interview. I hope you guys got your questions answered. Some big things are coming for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. If you have not checked it out, go check it out on Disney Plus. It's definitely worth all your time. If you're a beloved Marvel fan and a Spider-Man fan, you're definitely going to enjoy the series. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Big love to you all, and peace out.